Oi, what's the best game where you get to eat pie? What's the best game where you play a dead guy? Aye, you'll find out in VG247's podcast. Here, what's the best game where you swing from a rope? And what's the best game where you batter the Pope? Assassin's Creed 2. Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast. Hello and welcome to VG247's Best Games Ever podcast, the show where we like to find the best game within a really specific category. For example, this week we're looking for the best game that we were so very happy to see the back of after many long years of things not working and the people in charge being awful. Do you remember the person in charge of this podcast last week, Tom?
Blanked it, it's gone.
Try and keep it light, keep it brief, because I've got to pick her up at 3 o'clock from her clarinet lesson. Care. Right, leave it out, etc. The person in charge of this podcast last week, as a sort of metaphor, was horrendous, and most people didn't get on. Most people didn't like it very much. And, you know, the podcast managed to get made just by pure inertia, right? Just out of habit more than anything else. But the person in charge of it last week, through sheer incompetence, was doing their damnedest to make it not work. Do you see what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's all over now. And we are joined today by Sharif Saeed, Mark Warren, and Tom Ori, as you've heard, to talk about games where by the time you finish them, you're just so glad that they're gone. And it could well be a game that you liked at some point in the past, although this is where the metaphor sort of breaks down a bit. But let's move on.
I was convinced, Jim, you were going to talk about how when you left me for the first time, as like some. I thought you were leading into how you just had enough, and then you left.
Yeah.
No, but you didn't do it. You know, last week's podcast.
Yeah.
Which I've been quite clear to you that I hated.
Yeah.
Many levels. One person actually said that they felt like subscribing, becoming a bestie because of that. So I don't know, maybe that levels out. Maybe that's enough.
Right, yeah. But to counter that, one person also said that they literally couldn't listen to it because it was so the character was so unappealing and the accent was so grating. And
just imagine being like not in the room but in the recording as it was happening. Just imagine what that was like.
Yeah. Well, I didn't enjoy it very much.
Being in a recording where Jim's not quite there. I can't imagine that.
That's very mean, Mark. But let's move on from all that, because the obvious metaphor here is that we've just had a little election in Britain, and we've got rid of some people who had essentially wrecked the country over a period of 14 years. But what upsets me most about it is not that we're now rid of them, but that we took 14 years to get rid of them, because the rot had set in within 6 months. They'd already wrecked stuff, you know, by 2015. That was the point to kick them out. Anyway, I'm going to calm down now. Sorry. Right, let's move on to what everyone's picks are. Tom, can we start with you? Because you never get to start.
Sure. Just wondering, are you in like what kind of pub are you in?
Now there's a story behind this. This was meant to be Bernie's background, but I forgot to put it on. So I'm using it. I'm using it because I think it's really striking, and I think the mood. I think it reflects the mood of the country, Tom. A mood of optimism.
How did Bernie vote? Do you know?
Bernie probably would have been. I feel like Bernie is one of those really annoying Green voters. Like, I'm not saying that all Green voters are annoying, but I think I imagined Bernie as being a sort of like one of those guys in a pub in a leather jacket who fucking knows everything about everything, and he's like 11 or if, you know, like. If you've done something, he's done it better, and he thinks he knows everything about politics and all that, and he's convinced that he would either vote for Green or he'd vote for like an independent candidate who's like a single issue about preserving fucking trees on a roundabout somewhere. He'd be that kind of guy.
That's not the impression I got at all. That's not the impression I got at all.
No? You don't have to subtweet me, you know. I can go and get my leather jacket that's hanging literally out of shot if you want me to.
If anything, like his single issue would be like something incredibly vague and unquantifiable, like preserving British this or that.
Is that? That's not the impression I wanted to give off at all.
The character was badly developed.
I did not want him to be right wing. I wanted him to be like just an annoying.
He wasn't progressive.
Man.
Maybe
he wasn't.
I don't know if. He was like the bit at the start with when he's like he called James a Sherpa. That's pretty funny.
I was getting Count Binface voter.
Yeah, Count Binface voter. Actually, that is spot on. Yeah, he would have been a Count Binface. He would have been one of these guys who votes Monster Raving Loony usually. You know, he's like, can't stand any of them. Can't stand any of them.
For audio listeners, it's not going to make any sense. But why is this Union Jack flapping? Like, what? It's clearly indoors.
It's because there's a fan behind me. Like,
is it? Okay. Oh, that's clever. I thought it was like opposite the door to the place. And everyone's like, the door opens.
The pub door's open.
Gust of wind.
It's gust of wind.
Hold on. The Union Jack is part of your real room.
No, it's not.
Wait, no.
No, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not.
It's
not. You said there was a fan.
Yeah, but
moving the Union Jack.
Yeah, but I was doing a joke, Tom. I was.
I was like, what? I thought you'd done the most amazing
do you believe
stage
everything
background I've ever seen.
No.
I was like, how's he managed that?
No.
Right. Okay.
It's quite clear that the flapping is very repetitive.
You'll see in a minute. It'll loop,
like
but it just cuts to.
But then I thought see if you were acting had been that good last week, we'd have believed the character more.
My acting was impeccable last week.
It was.
Actually, was. I held that character for a solid hour. Anyway, look, enough about me. Right. This is about Tom, initially. Tom, what is your pick for the best game you're happy to see the back of?
I've got a lot of choices for this, really, but a lot of them basically boil down to I had a deadline.
Yeah.
The deadline was fast approaching. Can this just be over with, please? And I felt that was a bit harsh to make it on that, because that isn't a real, for most people, isn't a real scenario, is it? Like they don't play games on a deadline, really. And like, I'll do this whenever I want. Most people probably within the first 2 days, and they'll just do it. That's not my life.
I think that humps all of our other choices.
Yeah, so I was gonna go with The Witness, because The Witness I was proper struggling with for a long time.
Yeah,
and I was talking to various people in games media. Like we had little chats around what was going on. Matthew Pellett, who was the editor of Official PlayStation Magazine, we used to chat a bit. I mean, to be fair, he was mostly giving me advice, and I was like begging him for tips rather than me helping him very much. But that was a tight one, because I was just like, I don't think you can realistically review that having not finished it. You can with some games, I think, but not that. Anyway, I didn't pick that because it was my own deadline that was not for most people, right? But then more recently, I was playing God of War Ragnarok, and I really like the modern God of War games. For what they were, I like the old ones too, but I think I prefer the new ones. I think they are, for some of the criticism they get, I think they have really good storytelling and characters, and like it's more, they're not just, I think the characters are deeper than what you get in a lot of games these days, even though you've got the obvious sad dad trope, and can he be a father, etc. He can't even put his hand on his son's shoulder, etc. But I think it does it pretty well. But the problem with the second one is, and I think the first one suffered a bit from this, but even more from the second one, is that it's just so long. It's such a long game with so much, like, particularly in the first half, I think, it took a long time to get anywhere. And by the end, like, I was trying to do a lot of the side stuff throughout the game, because some of the best bits sometimes are in the little side missions and the little quests and things it asks you to do for certain characters. By the end, I was just blasting through. I couldn't spend any more time on this game, even though I wanted to see it through to the end. And I finished up, and it was like, I was happy to finish it, but then that was it. I was done. But there's loads of stuff I go back and do. They did the extra mode that everyone loves, right? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like is it like a roguelike mode where you have to...
I've heard of the roguelike mode.
I can't lie for me think what it's called. Valhalla, maybe?
Good game
Valhalla,
Yes.
I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, Jim.
There are only,
I did
there are only
remember
6 or
it.
7 words in Norse mythology, and you have to rearrange them every time you make a game. So if you call the game Ragnarok, you didn't mention Valhalla, so Valhalla becomes the name of the DLC.
So wait a minute. So God of War Ragnarok had a roguelike DLC called Valhalla.
Yeah.
And Assassin's Creed Valhalla has a
Valhalla.
roguelike DLC called Ragnarok.
That's right.
Fuck me.
That's what I mean. Like you can only
That's how they had
arrange
to do
these
it.
6 words, rearrange them for your
What
game.
a lot of shite.
But essentially, Jim, this is a very good game. I like it a lot. Some of the stuff they do is really like I've seen few games that work in a way where like the way you tackle missions and who goes with you and things. It really they're very clever about the way they handle some of that stuff. So if you had someone with you at one point who wasn't with you later on, it would reference it so that person would like, oh, they wish they were sad they couldn't have seen this thing or whatever. Like it's small, tiny bits, but it really works well. But by the end, I was just like, I've got to just get it over with. Just get over with. I want to finish it, move on to something else, even though I loved it. Yeah. It was bizarre because I did really like it. And I'd recommend it to anyone who likes those kind of games. But it was so long. It was just so long. And I probably spent 3 months playing that game in evenings now and again. And my life was just, I've got to do something else. I wanted to play Alan Wake 2. And I was like, I've got to get through at some point to try something else. So I had a quick bash on that Valhalla mode. I was like, I can't spend another 2 months doing this, so I'm moving on. That was it.
Makes sense. I agree. I mean, I don't think that's a really good pick, Tom. That's quite annoying. You haven't even messed around with that, wouldn't you? You just played it straight.
Just did it straight. It's like it's a very good game, I think, but it's just too long. There's too much stuff. Like even I did quite a lot of the side stuff, and I could go back now and probably spend another 20 hours easily just doing other bits and pieces that I didn't do.
Yeah,
and some of that's probably really cool bits. Like in the first game, you had all the stuff with like you go back and find all the dragons and stuff and everything else, and fight the Valkyries and things. I'm sure there's some cool stuff in this that I just haven't seen yet.
Is this a return to like this show being sensible, straight down the line, straight talking?
I don't think so. I was desperately trying to think of a story to tell you.
Yeah.
But I have just had nothing happening.
But that sort of part of Tom, when you did the infamous Football Manager tangent that lasted months and still rears its ugly head every now and then.
Yeah.
Some might say that led to the ruin of this show initially. So, now we're on a path to a slightly brighter future, would you not say?
I think that's what made it what it was.
Yeah.
People loved it, Jim.
Yeah.
Certainly loved it more than Bernie, didn't they?
but you see, the thing about Bernie is that Bernie was a symptom of the climate that you had previously created. Bernie was not in and of himself a movement.
I think it's just a symptom of your
I'm doing that character was our Trump now.
Your lack of interest in just doing work, Jim. That was Bernie, wasn't it?
Excuse me.
It hasn't been long enough.
Excuse me. My lack of enthusiasm for that character was like physically painful to keep up for an hour. I tell you, I had to have a lie down for the rest of the day after that.
There we go. Exactly on point.
All right, okay, what are we going to do next? Let's go to Sharif. What have you got for us? What's the best game you're happy to see the back of?
I think I'm going to have to go with this is an old podcast argument where you want to, the brief says pick a game, but I want to pick multiple games, which is always a point of contention.
Brave.
It's not like to maximize my chances, but it's because they all fit the sort of the
You're not doing a Burns and saying 6 games so you get the
no. That's not that is beyond me. I want to pick Rockstar games just in general.
Can we allow this, Tom?
We'll see. All
right, okay.
I guess the most recent one would be Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
But it is Rockstar games. I'll try to say this as simply and briefly and inoffensively as possible. I think they're great games that are given way too much credit for things that games do all the time. I completely understand that I'm probably the opposite of this when I'm talking about something like Bloodborne or something that is made by From Software, where people would listen to me talk about it, or fans of those games, and like people are out of your minds. Like, all this stuff is in other games as well. It's absolutely fine. I am that way with Rockstar games, so I understand immediately the criticism. But it is. I remember we ran an interview with, I want to say, the art director of the game of Red Dead Redemption 2 about horse bowls. And there was even an episode of this podcast.
To be clear, that was balls, not bowls.
Horse
It
bowls.
wasn't
Yes.
to drink from. It was their balls.
Horse testicles.
Yeah.
About how well animated they are and how reactive they are to the weather. They would shrink in winter, etc., etc. And I remember just reading that, and just like how many man hours had to be dedicated to something as trivial and inessential as that, and how not only for that to exist and for them to convince each other that this is something that needs to be worked on, but for it to be a significant point to warrant an interview and to generate conversation. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this is a great example of that, where it's like they are assigned such a pedigree that it is like watching a movie from like an incredibly smart director, and so you think it's like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie where every shot you look at the composition of that shot, and I try to get any meaning from it. Like, oh, this is saying something. Where in reality, it was just like the lighting was fine when we were filming on this boat, and so I thought that looked good. And it's this idea that everything they do has to be hyper analyzed, and people dig into the details. Red Dead Redemption 2, massive example. GTA 6, again, won't be out for a while yet. Already people are like, oh, look at the hair on this character in the trailer that was like 2 minutes, 1 minute maybe. And people were like, oh, is it 30 FPS? Is this? And I'm not blaming anyone for like creating this content, because there's clearly an audience for it. I just look at that and just like, GTA 5 is a good game. I don't think it's one of the best games ever made. Same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2. Really good game. I don't think it warrants all of the fanfare and all of this celebration of what is essentially a pretty good story that would have been much better served than a 90-minute movie.
Were people analysing the horse balls?
The what?
Were people analysing them? Were they going like,
the fact that it's a point of conversation
meaning behind
all.
these balls?
No,
There's
no,
meaning.
but the fact that it's a conversation. Like, if every part of the frame is, if you're told that every part of the frame is supposed to tell you a story, you're going to go out of your way to try and overanalyze and overpay attention to everything. So like the attention economy around that game is all out of whack. Around the Rockstar games is all out of whack, and that also feeds into their own perception of themselves and their own status as a company, in that because they're treated that way, they also get to make the biggest deal out of the smallest, tiniest details.
Are you just the horse from Elden Ring? The Elden Ring horse. What's the Elden Ring horse called?
Torrent.
Does it have balls?
I have no fucking idea.
There we go. I think you just brought this on yourself, Sharif, by talking about. You said you could be criticised because you wouldn't. If Torrent had balls, you'd be like, amazing those balls.
No,
the buff they give you against the winged orcs.
See the example.
Incredible.
It'd be like a buff of testicular fortitude.
Aye.
So you have the right idea, but you don't have enough love for those games to really create like a really low blow example. The example that you should have used would be like an item description explaining why Torrent doesn't have balls and how that's related to actually America's descent and how it did. This is how you would do this. One of those bits. But the point is, yes, in Elden Ring, absolutely, it would be something like, this item description changes everything. Here's a 2-hour video on why. Where it was, let's just like a mistranslation. And this happened, by the way, in Dark Souls 1 and a bunch of their other games, because people are over-obsessed. And it's that exact idea that takes a different form when you look at Rockstar games, where everyone is like, oh my god, is it gonna be the entirety of Florida?
To bring it back around to the conceit of this entire show and to compare From Software to the Labour Party, right? Isn't it that they're all if you think FromSoft's lore is so vague that basically people project whatever they want onto it.
Not
it can be anything
necessarily.
to any, like, it's like it's just a little vague piece of policy where people can be like, yeah, I guess that's for me, even though you don't actually know any of the details.
What party is the horse balls? Just I'm lost in the comparisons.
The
The Lib Dems, right?
No, I think there's an element of it for sure, Jim. There's an element of, and I think that's the point, though, right? Like it's you leave enough of it vague enough that
How do you get onto Elden Ring, Tom? For fuck's sake!
Sharif brought it up. He brought up From Software, not me.
Can I just point out at this point that Sharif, because of the blurring effect you've got on your feed, it looks like your microphone is just floating in midair, which I love. Like you're dialing in from 2075.
I don't know what you want to get my hands over there to break the effect. Just leave it for the entirety of this video. But yeah, Rockstar Games, they get a lot of, in my opinion, undue appreciation for what are very good games, but there's a difference between very good games and the best games and the best studio. Like people compare them to other studios. And they effectively have become the benchmark, and I don't think that's good. I think, in fact, it's dangerous, given the work culture, given their obsession with what I will say again are meaningless details that, in fact, like at best, they don't really influence the game, and at worst, they detract from the experience. Like all the
when did Red Dead 2 come out?
Like 2017, I want to say. 2018.
So was that 7 years ish?
Yeah,
and we're still talking about the balls. So. Seems like it worked, right? Still, it worked. What other game we talking about?
We are still talking about the balls.
That's the point I'm trying to make, though. That's the point I'm trying to make.
They get, but it works, right? They do it because they know that they're going to get money out of it.
They do 24/7's talking balls. Right. Let's move on because we've got a lot to get through, and Tom says he needs to go and do something at 2. Mark. I've got a note for you, Sharif, but I'm going to leave it until the bit where I decide not to pick people. Mark, what is your best game that you're happy to see the back of?
It's Elden Ring, which is funny because we've kind of already had this discussion, and I definitely wasn't sitting there going, "Oh no, the horse is bolting from the stable, and I can see its balls."
That's.
But yes,
but you did get to say that though, which is, I think, worth it.
Yeah, I've picked Elden Ring because, as Sharif alluded to, games have always come with their own little discourses that make them terrible in their own certain way, depending on how much kind of bandwidth you have for discussions about a certain thing. And I just think, in addition to the personal effect it had on me, the discourses that surround a big FromSoft release nowadays are just more annoying than anything else, because inevitably, regardless of how people feel about it, you get the big discussion about whether a game can be difficult or not, and all of the accessibility stuff that comes with. We've spent the last week after Shadow of the Earth Tree came out debating whether pause buttons are okay, which I think pause buttons are okay as a relatively benign position to hold, but because of all that comes with that and the nature of kind of people going, this is what this game is, the vision is so good and people enjoying the vision so much, which is obviously a good thing. The negative thing that comes out of that is people feeling the need to defend the fact that there isn't a pause button, when in reality, that's fine. The game would be fine if it had a pause button in the same way that it's fine without one.
Sharif's probably writing out right now why it doesn't. Why it does not need a pause button.
It does in fact have a pause button. It's just incredibly hidden.
There you go, from a soft defender. Here he is.
It may as well not exist. I'm literally just saying it may as well not exist because of how hidden it is.
You can't keep quiet about it, can you, Sharif? You always have to jump in.
For the record, you can pause the game. And I do agree it's silly that this is even a conversation that the game cannot be paused. Please go on.
But
sorry.
Like I say, and once you get past that, you get kind of the way that people who either don't like those games or have tried those games and can't get into them, which is a significant portion of people for a multitude of different reasons. It's the fact that now they're so big that you feel like every time a new one comes out, you've got to try again.
Yeah.
Because it's disingenuous to sit there going, I don't like this thing, and not have made significant attempts to try and like the thing that everyone says is good, is clearly good because people love it so much, but just isn't your thing. So it comes with that, and also the fact that Elden Ring in particular came out around the time that I was formally trying to get into this profession after leaving university, with the very good but also very crap plan of try and get in by just getting work, which works as long as there's work to be had. And the problem is that the only work to be had around the time that I'd just graduated and was doing that was to do with Elden Ring, because quite naturally, because of how big it was, everybody was desperately wanting to commission stuff about Elden Ring, op-eds about Elden Ring, interviews about Elden Ring, and I was sitting there as a person who didn't know anything about Elden Ring and had the respect of not wanting to write about something that I didn't really know about. I was sitting there kind of desperately trying to do other stuff when everybody's just talking about Elden Ring, which wasn't fun and kind of amplified.
Have you not played any of their games before?
I tried. The only one I tried up until that point was Sekiro, and literally I'd gotten to the second or third boss and just thought, I could do this, but I'm not enjoying it, and I'm not going to spend the hours that it would take me to get good and do this.
Sounds like you should have picked Sekiro as your choice.
Yeah, but
you didn't.
Sekiro is so unlike all those games that
Yeah.
I feel like may not give you the right idea about what these games are.
But it depends. But I'm saying I've since tried Elden Ring, and I had Sekiro problem. I basically
Really? Okay.
got a little bit of the way in and was like, this is clearly good. All of the world building and everything's good. I can see why people like it, but just it ain't my definition of fun. And when everybody's talking about something that isn't your definition of fun, and the discourses that come along with it are even worse than some of the really bad discourses out there, I think that qualifies.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad when you don't like something everyone loves. I watched Godzilla -1
Yeah.
the other night, and I was well excited, as much as I can get excited about something. I was well up for watching this. I thought everyone loves this film. I just thought it was there. It was all right.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be like a proper step above what would be an action disaster movie, and it was fine. But I wouldn't be raving about it. I don't know how it's on I don't know, IMDb rating of 8 or something. I think it's way too high. Way too high. So I feel you, Mark. I also agree. Elden Ring shit in it.
I have to say, right, I've got actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's do the bit where we pick something. Okay, we got 3 quite distinct things here. I think I will allow, on this occasion, Sharif to submit Rockstar, the vibe, the general sort of Rockstar thing. I get it. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We've got, but let's call it Red Dead 2 / GTA 5. And we've got Elden Ring, and we've got what was yours again, Tom?
God of War Ragnarok.
God of War Ragnarok. That was it. So I always forget at least one. I do apologize. God of War Ragnarok. So got to pick the best one out of these 3. I think I've got a very similar attitude to FromSoft games that Mark does. I have tried. I tried to get into Dark Souls back in the day. I've tried Sekiro. Tried Dark Souls 3 because Tom made me play it as part of my job once back in the day. And I understand, exactly where Mark's coming from. I understand that I could spend the time and get through this. And I've had people say to me, look, it doesn't matter how shite at games you are or whatever, because it's about learning the patterns, and it's about death is part of the experience. It's about perseverance, a little bit of trial and error. Sometimes you just accidentally cheese your way through it. So it's about tenacity.
I think it does matter how good you are, because I'm just not good enough. I had to put Resident Evil 4 Remake on easy.
Yeah.
I had to put it on easy mode.
No, but I think...
Because I kept dying in the opening village, which all you have to do is stay alive until they ring the bell.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to speedrun Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And now I have to put it on easy mode to get through the opening before the title appears on the screen.
That's age, though, isn't it, Tom? But I just mean, I get when people are saying, like, well, you just have to get good and all that. I get all that. But I think Mark is absolutely right. What if I just don't fucking want it? What if I'm just not enjoying this? What if I just want to do something else? And
No,
so
it's forcing you.
I agree. Well, yeah, the thing, I was going to write something. I still might, about the FOMO aspect of FromSoft games, and I was going to write something to the effect of, like, it's okay just to not engage with it. It's okay to just not feel like just be glad that other people are enjoying something and just move on to something else. Like, you don't have to like Elden Ring just because everyone goes on about it. I've been spared Elden Ring. It's in terms of work, I'm on other stuff, and I was on holiday when it came out, roughly. So the Shadow of the Earth Tree. So I just escaped that. I was like, yes, no bother. I was in Cornwall by a pool, which, and I deserved to be because I was turning 40. So I completely agree with Mark on basically everything that Mark has just said. So,
there's a but coming.
There's no but. There's no but.
There is.
No, it's a kind of gentler politics. There's no but.
Mark one then.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not necessarily saying Mark is one. Sharif, I really have to take issue with the idea that frozen horse balls, shrunken horse balls, are a trivial and inconsequential detail. Because no, I'm taking issue with that because I don't think there are any micro details in something in GTA or Red Dead, because it's about verisimilitude. It's about having a tangible place. It's about having somewhere that feels essentially real. I'm not talking about realism necessarily. I'm just talking about, like, it presents you with a world that feels like it has weight and where actions have consequences. Like, for example, it getting cold and a horse's balls shrinking. I think that might well be in microcosm the entire Rockstar ethos, right? This is supposed to feel like a place where actions matter. Okay, and I know what you're going to say. I know they don't matter, right? But I think there is GTA is very similar to Elder Scrolls in that it's incredibly shallow, depending on how you look at it, but it's all about presenting you with a believable world that you can inhabit and you can explore and you can be in, right? And you can have an effect on.
I understand.
I don't think that horse balls are an inconsequential or trivial or pointless part of that.
But they are, though.
They're
because
not.
I feel like you're equating a shrinking of testicles to all the bespoke animations they're creating for opening drawers and picking up items and looking at them and rotating.
And I think it's all part of the same. All part of the same mix.
But at least that one feeds into their really misguided idea of a sense of place, whereas horse balls are things that you don't think about, and nor do they affect anything in gameplay or narrative or really anything.
You thought about them a lot, Sharif. To be fair.
But there's loads of stuff in those games. There's like you can.
Were it not for that interview, I don't think anyone would even notice. Like that's
but there's loads of, like, if you go on, you can go onto YouTube and find compilations of stuff in Red Dead 2.
Yes.
It's like there's loads of stuff in there where it's like just realistic touches to do with, like, the water physics and what happens if you set off dynamite under the ocean and all that kind of stuff, right? And I can't think of any specific examples because
there's a whole ecology of, like, animals and predator and prey stuff.
That does not come into the main story at all.
No, but it has an effect. It feeds into that sense of place. Horse balls do not. Like, no one is going there. Like, yes,
it's part of the same mix. I disagree with you fundamentally.
It does if your horse is playing this. It would be useful. They'd feel more sense of realism, wouldn't they?
I feel like the way the tangible way
what's the
that
talking
the
horse
weather.
called, Jim?
You're sorry?
What's the talking horse called?
What talking
That program
horse?
about the talking horse. Ed?
You
Is
on
Ed the
about?
horse? There was a TV program about a talking horse. It was black and white.
Oh,
You'd know what this is,
BoJack
Jim.
Horseman.
I thought she was going to say
No.
BoJack Horseman.
BoJack Horseman's like a brand new Netflix. Before Netflix, Jim, before the internet.
When you said black and white,
there was
I
a
don't know.
horse, like Ned the horse or Ed the horse. Had a
Muffin the
theme
Mule?
tune. No, not Muffin the Mule. Not Muffin the Mule.
God.
Jeez.
None of these things are registering with
Find
the
this,
people listening to
Jim.
this.
In the edit, find this, and you can put a little snippet of the little theme tune in, so people can understand it.
Right.
I'll find it for you. It's a real program about a horse that talked.
And it was black and white.
Yeah, I think so.
How old are you? You're not that much older than I
Back
am.
when we were kids, black and white was not that far away, was it? It was like the recent history.
I mean, I was a child in like the early 90s.
You were a child in the 80s, Jim.
I was barely I was.
Don't lie.
I
You
was
were a child in the 80s. When were you born?
1984.
There we go. You were a child in the 80s and the 90s.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Right. Where was I going with this? Look,
You were talking about tangible balls.
I was just thinking, yeah, exactly. I think the effect of the tangible effect of Red Dead Redemption's weather system on the horse balls is part of that mix you're talking about. All the different bespoke animations for him getting into the bath and whatever, right? And it's all about creating a space that feels tangible and real. And I don't therefore think it's pointless. I think it is the point. So I actually disagree with you a lot there, Sharif. Like a lot.
Yeah, he's wrong. He's wrong.
And I can
He's
tell
wrong.
you're
Move on.
upset.
We've established it.
Sharif's raging. All right. God of War Ragnarok is it a good game, Tom, or is it a 7 out of 10?
No, it's definitely not 7 out of 10.
exclusive.
7 out of 10 is a good game.
It's better than a 7 out of 10, honestly. Have you played it, Jim?
No, I'm still
No.
getting through the
Both of
first one, which is fucking
Both of
long
those
enough.
games are very good, I think.
Yeah.
I think they have a classic, now that thing's come out, now it's okay to say it's shit kind of thing
Yeah.
about them, because
All right.
that's what people do, right? They're like, oh, that thing that was brilliant. No, shit now, isn't it? It's not. I think it just is too long. There was discussion about it being a bit padded and stuff. And I think story-wise, I don't think it is padded. But from a gameplay point of view, because you're playing through a lot of this stuff, it's just too long. It's too long. But I think they do need, the story works and it needs some of that earlier stuff.
Yeah.
But it just feels like by the end, it's just a slog. Even though I really enjoyed it and I would like to go back, my time is so short these days because I'm old. Not because I'm dying, just because I have a life outside of work. I just don't. I don't have time to spend another 2 months playing through it, even though I would if I was a child.
Well, I don't think Tom can win this one because I don't think you've picked a game that is as good as Elden Ring or GTA 5 slash Red
Mark
Dead
doesn't
2.
like Elden Ring.
Yeah, but he didn't deny that it was a good game.
Yeah, I don't not like it. I don't get on with it in the same way that people who are allergic to things don't get on with them.
I don't know, I'm not buying that.
I'm not excited necessarily about having an uninspiring centrist for a prime minister, but I'm glad he's in and not the other guy. It's a weird sort of thing.
You're saying Mark's uninspiring? Because if you are, go for it.
That wasn't about
That's
Mark
fine.
at all. I didn't call Mark an uninspiring centrist. That's obviously not what I meant. This miasma of political metaphors getting to me now. I can't work through it. Sharif, I really, you've actually picked the two games out of the you've picked the games that I love the most because I fucking love Rockstar games.
But okay, do you agree? How about this? Do you agree or disagree with the value that they are assigned, that Rockstar games are assigned? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Do you think it's in league with their quality compared to other games in the industry?
Yeah. I think they are unassailably one of the best studios on the planet. Like I think they
Sure.
did,
But
I
are
don't
they
think-
the best? Are they? Would you? Okay. How about this? Would you Would you say that a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 or GTA 5 is somehow deserving of more praise than a game that is made by Naughty Dog, than a God of War,
100%.
or the game that you love from a different studio, than an Elden Ring? All those games that you don't like, whatever.
Right,
But
pick a game that I love from a different studio. Everyone knows how much
Oblivion.
I love Assassin's Creed.
Let's say
All right, Oblivion. All right. Yeah, I would absolutely say so, because like I can, I love a lot of things despite themselves, right? And I love,
Okay.
I love Starfield, and I know how crap it is. I know how 6 out of 10 it is,
But that's a different story, though.
but it tickles my turnips adequately. So
Right.
whatever.
I think it's worth bringing up that because of how much attention they get, Rockstar Games also now have quite lofty expectations, and if they weren't feeling like they were meeting those expectations in the eyes of players, they wouldn't just get kind of praised by default.
Yeah.
I don't think, which Starfield proves,
Hey.
because it's kind of an example of that going wrong.
I feel like
There's a
Starfield
first time
having
for
such a
everything.
short news cycle compared to Skyrim, because Starfield dropped and then dropped off. It dropped onto the stores, and then it dropped off the face of the earth in terms of people actually talking about it. And I think because that was the Game of Thrones effect, right? It was like people getting to the end of a long thing and then going, oh, I don't want to think about that anymore. But I do genuinely think that the Rockstar games are up there. I think all of the plaudits and all of that is absolutely well deserved. And nobody does the open world. Nobody can do the open world in quite the same way. They're the only people who have the time and the money, to do it the way they do it. So it's a very special thing that exists. I'm glad it exists. I think Mark's 1 is what I'm getting to. I think Mark's 1, right? Elden Ring, I will be glad to see the back of it from the news cycle, from the discourse. I can't wait until I can log into the work Slack in the morning and the first thing talked about isn't Elden Ring. Because at the moment, it's Elden Ring, and I can't.
There's a new DLC after 2 years of release. What do you expect?
Yeah, but people haven't shut up about it since it came out the first fucking time, and
But people haven't shut up about GTA 6, and there's 90 seconds of video
GTA
out
6
of
is
it.
going to be a good game that I like. That's the difference.
But the point is, it's not warranted. That's the point. This is a game that we're playing and we're having opinions on. This is a thing that's far away in the future that people are assigning all these hopes and aspirations to.
Yeah,
God damn it.
yeah, but I'll be very glad when Elden Ring.
Shrew's doing a bit of a Connor, isn't he?
Yeah. I'll just be so glad when Elden Ring
God damn it.
ejects itself from the discourse. When that Star Wars Outlaws comes out, we're all going to talk about that, aren't we? Right?
No!
For about a day.
Nobody's going to talk about that this way.
Listen, well, I'll
That's
be talking
never
about
going to
that.
happen. No
I will
Ubisoft
be-
game. Here's the declaration. No Ubisoft game now or ever going to command that level of attention. Here's my declaration for July 2020.
Listen, it'll do the numbers though, right? It'll do the sales. It'll do
Maybe.
right, and
Doubt it.
more. Someone once said to me, "Listen, Jim, nobody gives a shit about Assassin's Creed," and I'm like, objectively incorrect. People clearly give a shit about Assassin's Creed because it's one of the most lucrative media properties of all time. Right. I'm not having this. Right. Let's move on. Mark has won because me and Mark agree that FromSoft games are a load of shit and we're sick of hearing about them. Right.
This is a
That's how I've told. That's how I've decided to interpret the topic.
It's a collusion.
We are about to move on to the paid part of this podcast. Tom, if people want to listen to an extended version of this podcast, what is it they need to do?
Yeah, if you want to be a bestie, which is our name for all our favourite people that pay to get this extra segment, you go to the website vg247.com and you click in the top right, it says support us.
Yep.
If you're on mobile, which you probably are, click the little button that expands that menu, then click support us, and then you can just pay £3 or equivalent a month, 30 a year, and you get the extra bit every week,
Yeah.
which is Jim picking a game.
Yeah, I have to pick a game, and then people are as mean to me about my game as I was to them about theirs. So
Have you won any of those?
no,
Have you
never.
won any?
I tried to make it happen when he picked Starfield for the pirate one, just because I was so unhappy about the one that had actually won, but he wasn't entertaining.
I think it's a real karmic release for people when I get the piss ripped out of me. Sharif can't wait. I can see it in his face. He can't wait to stick the boot in because he feels robbed. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. We do really appreciate it. Whether you're a bestie or not, we really appreciate it. If you would like to support us in other ways, please go to your podcast app of choice and give us a 5-star review. It really helps. And just keep listening. Tell your friends. It's a good show. I think it's a good show. People should listen to it. All right. And if you are a paid subscriber, this is what you're paying for.
Jim,